to getting back in the groove with this show. But evidently, one thing that has not changed is your work week weather on Monday, and that's when we bring in the expertise and certainly the energy. And our friend Landon Idlet out of the National Weather Service. Landon, I know you and I were chatting over the weekend. You said it's been a rather long haul for you guys, you and your colleagues over there, because you guys were tracking Tropical Storm Malakas. Fortunately, we were spared outside of a bunch of gusty winds and some rain and everything like that. But that storm looks like it could be like a nasty son of a gun in the next couple of days.
So it was a very docile weekend to some extent from what we were expecting. We were looking at the potential for some significant rainfall over the island, with some of the model spreads over the next 10 days ranging from 2 to 3 inches to over a foot of rain for 5-day period from Friday through midweek this week. And all of those models, even the low end, was actually overdoing it. We only had about a half-inch of rain over the last 3 days, with the heaviest rains remaining offshore. So we were very lucky in that department. However, we did need the rainfall, especially with the ongoing fire danger for Guam. That has been climbing up steadily through the weekend, despite having a tropical system in our neighborhood. We are watching some more stuff out there to our south and our southwest, and I'm going to turn my camera around just shortly to show you what's out there. But that storm is still spinning up, and we're also watching another tropical storm near the Philippines. But some advisories we had in effect right now. We have a high rip of rift currents for east-facing reefs through this afternoon. A high surf advisory is in effect for east-facing reefs through this morning. Surf will be climbing down just a little bit gradually, but the waves and the seas will be very elevated due to the stronger winds across the region. We do have a small craft advisory that will be in effect through Tuesday morning for east winds of 20 to 25 knots and combined seas of 9 to 12 feet. And then a wind advisory remains in effect through this afternoon for southeast winds of 20 to 30 mile per hour, sustained with higher gusts with those showers. Those showers will work to bring the stronger winds from about 1,000 to 3,000 feet above the surface down to the surface. And that's what we saw yesterday with some of the heavy showers that did blow through quickly through across the island yesterday. We had a peak wind gust for this whole event here at this office of 45 miles per hour. And that was with the early morning shower that punched its way through central Guam, and it was coming down in torrents for about 5 minutes, and then it moved right on off. And the rest of the day was not that bad. So let me turn my camera around. I'll show you what we're looking at. This is the Tropical Storm Malakas, and it has cleared out of Yap State and sits generally north of Palau at the moment, pumping that monsoon across the Republic of Palau, the broader part of Yap State, and eventually into Guam and the CNMI. So this is our not too impressive looking tropical storm at the moment, but it is expected to intensify. And so you see all these greens, those blacks and greens. That's the intense deep convection just boiling like water right there around the center of this storm. So it is expected to intensify. It could become a typhoon later tonight, but of course, is it any direct threat to Guam? It is not a direct threat to us. It's going to continue up into the Philippine Sea. Was moving west-northwestward. It's going to be making its general turn toward the north and the northeast and keep out to sea, affecting no other land areas. Farther to our west, this is the next tropical storm, and it's very much not an impressive sight to look at. This is Tropical Storm Maggie, and it's been sitting nearly stationary over the Philippines, areas like Cebu and Bohol. The winds are not that impressive, even though it is a minimal tropical storm intensity. But the rain, that is a story. So folks watching, if you have family and friends in central southern parts of the Philippines, do try to contact them, because they have been having torrential rainfall, not just for a day, not for 2 days, but for the better part of almost a week there, with this disturbance and showers and thunderstorms over much of this area of central southern Philippines. So again, that's Cebu area, Bohol, and Leyte. So
yeah, Landon, could I ask, with this little, let's call it like the younger cousin of Malakas, right? Because we looked at Malakas, obviously that's a storm that seems to maybe metaphorically have a little bit of attitude. It's got a lot of energy starting to form up and everything like that. It looks like that other, the smaller, the younger one that's already near the Philippines is kind of like a storm trying to find its identity, maybe like struggling to even keep itself organized. Would that be characteristic?
Yeah, you could say that. The other thing is, when you have two tropical cyclones in relative proximity, they kind of feed off the same bit of energy. And so they're going to not so much combine and make a superstorm, but eventually this one is expected to make a kind of a U-turn, moving slowly toward the east. But that's still speculative. That's what the model outlooks are saying right now. But there's not much hope for it to become anything. For us, it's not a threat to Palau, Yap, or Guam and the CNMI,
right.
but some of the models do bring it generally up into the broader pattern, which is this Malaccas wind field, and then up into Malaccas itself. And again, it's not going to combine to make some super Hollywood tropical cyclone. It's just going to eat up that energy and just be a broader system of the region.
Well, maybe if Charles Dickens was still alive and everything, he might write, you know, of these like recent systems, like A Tale of Two Storms or something, because like it seems like these two are just so opposite.
That's exactly it. And sometimes we get these patterns where you have a Fujiwara effect, where you have two systems and they start kind of dancing around a center point in the middle of the two of them. So we might see that for a brief little bit before it just swallows up the smaller, weaker one. But again, the impacts are there in the Philippines. So a lot of times when we talk about tropical cyclones, it's not about that center of circulation where that track line is. It's all the impacts that expand well out from that center of circulation. Like for Palau, we have that monsoon coming right up over here. And for us in Guam, we are watching this area of showers billowing up here. So if this holds together today, we could see some significant rainfall. But as the trends were yesterday, we had a rain band just over the southern coastal waters. That eventually just kind of fell apart as it was making its way slowly northward and toward the northwest. So we really didn't have such a wet day yesterday with about a 1/4 inch of rain. But we're going to be watching this close, especially as the visible imagery starts coming up with the daytime lighting to see if it holds together. And again, if it holds together, we could have a very wet period midday today into the afternoon hours. So we'll be watching that. We'll be communicating if it holds together. Otherwise, it's not going to be too bad with just scattered showers.
Okay. And real quick,
So
Landon, I know the naming of
Yes.
these storms. I mean, they're not, you know, random. You guys just don't arbitrarily like pick them and everything like that. There is a schedule for these things. But we were mentioning at the top of the show earlier this morning when we went on that Malaccas, and Joe Sir was actually saying in Tagalog that means strong. Was
Yes.
that deliberately named? I would think that's kind of a scary thing to name a weather system.
Yeah, that was a name submitted by the Philippines to the UN's Typhoon Committee. And so this is a Typhoon Committee that we are a part of, myself and a couple others from the United States. We're part of the U.S. delegation. So we look at the storm names, and if, for example, if Malaccas turned into a major super typhoon that caused widespread damage and casualties, then that name would be retired. And then the committee would meet at one of our annual meetings. The Philippines would be required to submit a new name to replace Malaccas. And then the committee would go through the discussions, the deliberations, and make sure the translations are okay and aren't something offensive. And of course, Malaccas does have a different term in another language other than Tagalog, which means strong. It has some other terminology. So we may have to mention Malaccas in the next annual meeting and see if we can maybe change that name for any kind of inappropriate translations.
Yep.
But that happens. That's the beauty of foreign languages. So let's cue up the slides, and we'll
Moving
go right
on
into
to the slides.
We'll go right into the slides,
And hopefully not offending anybody that speaks any other international dialects. But
yeah, I've had some traffic on my Facebook page about that, and I remember I think the last time Malaccas came around, it was in 2016. I'm like, well, what the heck does Malaccas mean? I know it's a Tagalog word for strong, but what's so funny about it? And yeah, it happens. So that might be a point of discussion of the Typhoon Committee. So yeah, we mentioned a number of advisories in effect, namely the high rip risk, the high surf advisory, and the small craft advisory. So do avoid the waters, especially on the east side, because the waves will be pumping. I was over there yesterday, and they are huge over there. Also, the wind advisory through this afternoon. And then the ITCZ is pumping across eastern Micronesia, causing problems in periods down there. And then, of course, the monsoon across Yap and Palau. Not too bad. The Guam rainfall, the next slide, we only had a 1/4 inch of rain yesterday here at the office. Most of that probably fell in about a 5-minute period with that heavy shower in the morning hours. Other than that, it was just cloudy, overcast, and windy yesterday. And those winds do continue today, but they have decreased just a little bit today, and that's going to continue, as well as the stronger winds shift off farther to our west with the departing tropical storm. The next slide showing the satellite picture, I annotated this. I'll be posting this to our NWS Facebook page later this morning. I will update that for the advisory number 16. This is based on advisory 15. Tropical storm Malaccas moving west-northwest at 16 miles per hour. Eventually, it's going to make that turn toward the north and the northeast. No longer a threat to any land areas and all tropical storm and typhoon watches and warnings are canceled at this point. We're going to be watching that monsoon surge as it starts to whip around and strengthen across Palau, Yap, and Guam. They have a major international conference in Palau. So that's my headache today and the next several days, as it was the last several days, is what is it going to be doing to Palau? Because there's a lot of attention, a lot of eyes on the Republic of Palau this week for that Our Ocean Conference. So the United States does have a fairly large delegation going there this week. The next slide showing the Joint Typhoon Warning Center monitoring 2 tropical storms, 2W and 3W. That is the second and third tropical cyclone of 2022, and it comes on the anniversary of Typhoon Sirigay, which ravaged the Palau area and then on into Philippines last year. And again, the track for both of the storms on the next slide, again, no threat to land areas in our air responsibility, but that tropical storm Maggie will be dumping significant rainfall, causing widespread flooding issues across several islands of the Philippines. I've seen a lot of social media coverage out there, especially from some of the news affiliates over there. Weak system, but significant rainfall. And so you remember, for our area especially, it does not need to be a significantly intense typhoon to cause problems. You can have a disturbance dump profound amounts of rainfall in a short period of time that can cause widespread problems, especially in mountainous areas, rivers, and creek beds. So keep that in mind as we approach the peak of our storm season. The next slide showing the winds over the ocean, the scatterometry showing those tropical storms to our west. And the bulk of those winds, the strongest winds were right over Guam and Sinai yesterday, but the strongest of those 30 to 35 knot winds, barbs, they have shifted to our west. So we're going to see the winds gradually taper today and improve, but then also switching from the east to the southeast and probably to the south over the next several days as that monsoon flow starts to kick in across the region. The next slide showing the sea conditions. The Ipan buoy has been taking the brunt of this trade wind swell with their strong winds. They've been holding average between 10 and 12 feet over the last day and a half or so, with those waves pumping out of the east. Those waves will start shifting to the southeast and then the south as the winds shift as well. And the Retidium will start taking some of the heat in the days to come as that southwest swell starts to build, and then the west swell from the distant tropical storm and probably Typhoon Malakas in the coming days. So watch out. The east side of the island, that's taking the brunt of the waves and the surf, but all of that energy is going to be shifting gradually from the east to the southeast. We can see in the Ipan buoy, we have the peak wave energy coming from the southeast now. That's going to be making its way around to the south and then toward the southwest and the west. So watch out in the days to come, because those large swell will be building on the southwest and west sides of the island. And so for the week ahead, mostly cloudy with scattered showers. Not so bad today. We did back off the rain showers today, but as I mentioned earlier, if that shield of showers and thunderstorms to our south and southwest hold together, we could have a wetter period for probably about 2 to 5 hours mid to late this afternoon. But we'll be watching that closely and communicating that if things do materialize. For the rest of the week, a wetter pattern is going to remain in place for the next several days, and then drying up significantly by the weekend as things start to get a little bit back to normal. But the winds, again, will be from the southeast and then the south by the end of the week. And that's all I've got.
All right. Well, real quick, I just wanted to give a little bit of trivia. Okay, well, we have John Paul is actually in our comment right now, and he posted a really helpful link that says, Filipino citizens are probably like laughing at the way you guys are pronouncing Malakas. So, Joseph, what is it? It's Malakas, right? Malakas. Okay, Malakas. Malakas. Very nice. And JP, thanks for that. We appreciate it. We go for accuracy on this show. And speaking of international diplomacy, Landon, you were mentioning, how there's a lot of stuff happening around in Palau right now. A lot of people are converging on that. Hopefully not weather systems, but, actual human resources. Have you ever tried the Palauan dish, the tama? I
don't think I've ever tried that before.
They're Palauan donuts. I was actually at a coffee shop here in Harmon yesterday. They make those. It's almost like Banelas Dago, but if you're a fan of Banelas Dago, try the Palauan tama. They are delicious.
What shop is that in Harmon?
It's our friends over here at Brood Awakenings.
All right.
So they have a whole basket of it. And yeah, it's Palauan tama.
I'll have to try that.
Yeah.
I will try that. I hope to get to Palau maybe in late July or in August.
Yeah, so I was going to say, if you're there, bring some back for us, man.
I would be glad to.
All right. So looks like things are going well for you. And again, we want to thank you and your brother, that project that you guys have. You finally are able to talk about it and everything. You guys are building, hopefully, what's going to be a world record setting tallest structure made out of maybe some Lincoln logs, maybe some Lego, maybe some other, like, you know, structures and everything like that. But you guys are off to a rocking start.
It'll be all Lincoln logs, and we plan to smash both current standing records. So I had to put that project on hold, all the planning, because of this weather the last week. Hopefully we'll start resume preparations and planning with the Habitat for Humanity and then also with Guinness. But we've already been approved for the records, so we're going to apply for, we have applied for 2 records, and we hope to smash them both in glorious fashion in June.
We know you can do it. What, in terms of height, what is the number of feet that you have to surpass?
Right now, the current record is 18 feet, 2 inches.
Wow.
And
that's a big Lincoln log structure.
So easy. That'll be so easy for us. We're going to, well, I'll have to show you pictures. It's just going to be that good. So.
Well, okay. And if you guys want to get a refresher on what we're talking about, you can check out our YouTube right now. Landon, of course, and his twin brother, Brandon. Brandon's 13 minutes older. We never forget that in this show. And I'm sure he never forgets to remind you of that. They're undertaking this amazing project. They're trying to build the world's, this isn't just like, you know, it's cool for Guam. This would be a Guinness Book of World Records, world record for tallest Lincoln log structure. And Landon Joser over here just said, when you eclipse that, not if, but when, at least in Joser's mind, he's going to rename them Landon logs.
I would second that motion. So,
there you go.
Yeah.
All right, but
that works for me.
Yeah. So we just started covering this, but we're going to follow you guys every step of the journey because that is a super cool project. Yeah,
we'll be putting out another press release at the start of May. We're going to have a lot of updated and new information, and we have also activities planned for the week before we start the construction to bring the community and get people involved. We'll also be soliciting volunteers, so we'll be putting out a lot of information on our social media pages, Tower for Humanity on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Look for those pages and stay up to date with new information coming soon.
All right, we're going to throw up your Instagram handle here so people can follow you guys. But Landon, thanks for the info, man, and get back to building.
Definitely.
All right, have a fantastic week. And that's Landon Idlet. Everybody at the National Weather Service had a rather long weekend, of course, tracking Tropical Storm Malakas. Thank you, Joe, sir. Thank you, JP. And giving you the information you need to know, of course, Workweek Weather Forecast brought to you by our friends at Docomo Pacific. And we are going to take a little bit of a break, but your Monday edition of The Link with Jace, Joe, sir.